Once the lunch rush ended, the little bell above the diner door rang softly. Most customers barely noticed it anymore, but Emma always did. She had worked at the Maple Street Diner for nearly 8 years, and every sound in the restaurant had become part of her daily rhythm. The sizzling grill, the clinking coffee mugs, the laughter of regular customers, and that tiny bell all reminded her that life kept moving forward, even when hers felt frozen. Emma smiled warmly at everyone who walked through the door because she believed kindness cost nothing. Yet behind that smile was a woman carrying heavy burdens. Her husband had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving her to raise her young daughter alone. Bills piled up every month, and sometimes she skipped dinner just so her daughter could have a proper meal. Still, she never let customers see her struggles. That rainy afternoon, the diner was unusually quiet. Gray clouds covered the sky, and the streets looked almost empty. Emma wiped down a table near the window when she noticed someone standing outside. A small boy, no older than 11, stared through the glass at the food inside. His clothes were soaked from the rain. His shoes were torn, and his face looked pale with exhaustion. He hesitated several times before finally pushing the door open. The bell rang softly as he stepped inside. Every customer turned to look at him for a moment before returning to their meals. The boy lowered his head, embarrassed by the attention. Emma walked toward him with the same warm smile she offered everyone else. "Welcome," she said gently. "Come in and get dry." The boy nodded without saying a word. She handed him a clean towel. "Would you like to sit down?" He glanced nervously around the diner before choosing the smallest table in the corner. Emma placed a menu in front of him. "I'll be right back with some water." When she returned, the boy hadn't even opened the menu. "Do you know what you'd like?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "How much is just one piece of bread?" Emma looked at him carefully. "Our bread basket is $3. The boy quietly reached into his pocket and poured a handful of coins onto the table. Pennies, nickels, and a few quarters rolled across the surface. He counted them twice. "I only have $1.17. His voice trembled. "I'll just take a glass of water." Emma felt her heart sink. She had seen people struggling before, but something about this boy's eyes was different. They weren't asking for pity. They carried pride mixed with desperation. Without saying anything, she picked up the menu. "I'll be right back." The cook, Mike, looked up as Emma entered the kitchen. "What does the kid want?" Emma quietly replied, "The biggest meal we have." Mike raised an eyebrow. "He can't pay." "I know." Mike smiled. "Put it on my tab." Emma shook her head. "No. I'll cover it." Within minutes, a large plate of pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, fruit, and a bowl of hot soup sat on a tray. Emma carried it carefully to the boy's table. "I think the kitchen made a mistake," she said with a wink. "They prepared an extra meal, and we'd hate to waste it." The boy stared at the food in disbelief. "For me?" "Absolutely." Tears filled his eyes. "Thank you." He whispered the words so softly that Emma almost didn't hear them. She walked away to give him privacy. The boy didn't immediately eat. Instead, he folded his hands and quietly prayed. "Thank you, God." Only then did he begin eating. Not quickly. Not greedily. Slowly. Carefully. As though every bite mattered. Emma watched from across the room. She noticed something unusual. Every few bites, he wrapped small pieces of toast inside a napkin. Later he slipped half of his sandwich into his backpack. Mike noticed too. "He's saving food." Emma nodded. "Probably for later." Neither of them realized the truth. When the meal was finished, Emma placed the bill on the table. The total read. Paid in full. The boy looked confused. I didn't pay. Emma smiled. Someone already did. He looked around the restaurant. Who? She simply answered. Someone who believes kindness should never come with conditions. The boy stood up. I don't know how to thank you. You already did. How? You smiled. For the first time all day, the boy truly smiled. Before leaving, he reached into his pocket again. This is all I have. He placed the $1.17 on the table. Emma gently pushed the coins back toward him. I think you'll need those more than we do. The boy hesitated. My mother always says we should never accept charity. Emma knelt beside the table. This isn't charity. It's hope. He nodded slowly before slipping the coins back into his pocket. As he walked toward the door, Emma noticed him limping slightly. His backpack looked far heavier than it should have. She watched through the window as he disappeared into the rain. Something told her this wasn't the end of their story. The next afternoon, almost at the exact same time, the little bell rang again. Emma looked up. It was the same boy. This time he looked even more tired. His clothes were still worn. His shoes were still soaked. But he smiled. I came to return something. Emma frowned. You don't owe us anything. He carefully placed a small brown paper bag on the counter. Inside were 6 homemade cookies. My mother baked these. Emma smiled. They smell wonderful. She said we can't repay your kindness, but we can share what little we have. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She bought 2 cookies even though the boy insisted they weren't for sale. Then every employee bought one. Soon every customer wanted one. Within 20 minutes, every cookie was gone. Emma secretly slipped $50 into the empty paper bag before handing it back. The boy didn't notice. He thanked everyone and hurried home. That evening, Emma couldn't stop thinking about him. She wondered where he lived. Why he was always alone. Why he seemed so hungry. The following morning, her questions were answered in the most unexpected way. A local police officer entered the diner. Morning, Emma. Morning, Officer Daniels. He ordered coffee before asking. Have you seen a young boy around 11 years old? Brown hair. Blue backpack. Emma immediately recognized him. Yes. Officer Daniels smiled. Good. Emma relaxed. I've been trying to find him too. The officer looked surprised. Why? I wanted to make sure he was okay. The officer's smile slowly disappeared. I'm afraid his situation is worse than most people realize. Emma felt her stomach tighten. What happened? Officer Daniels lowered his voice. His father disappeared over a year ago. Emma gasped. And his mother has been battling a serious illness. He works after school collecting recyclable bottles. Most days he skips lunch so his mother can eat. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. But that's not the part that concerns us most. What do you mean? Officer Daniels looked around before speaking quietly. Yesterday someone reported seeing the boy entering an abandoned warehouse every evening. Emma frowned. Why would he go there? We don't know. But whatever he's hiding. The officer paused. It may explain everything. Emma stared silently at the rain falling outside the diner window. She suddenly realized that the little secret hidden inside that worn-out backpack might be far greater than anyone could imagine. And deep in her heart, she knew she was about to discover a truth that would change not only the boy's life, but her own forever. The rest of that day, Emma couldn't focus on her work. Every time the diner door opened, she hoped it would be the young boy again. She kept thinking about Officer Daniels' words. An abandoned warehouse? A sick mother? A missing father? None of it made sense. The boy had been so polite, so grateful, and so determined not to ask for help. What kind of burden was he carrying? When her shift ended that evening, Emma decided to follow the route she had seen the boy take. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, reflecting the orange glow of the streetlights. She stayed far enough behind so he wouldn't notice her. The boy walked for nearly 20 minutes before turning into an old industrial district. Most of the buildings had been abandoned years ago. Broken windows, rusted fences, and faded signs made the area feel forgotten. Finally, he stopped outside a large warehouse with a damaged metal door. He looked around carefully before slipping inside. Emma waited a moment before quietly approaching the building. Through a cracked window, she expected to see an empty warehouse. Instead, what she saw left her speechless. Nearly a dozen children were sitting on old blankets in one corner of the warehouse. Some were reading books. Others were coloring on scraps of paper. A few were wrapped in worn-out jackets to keep warm. The hungry boy took the food he had saved from the diner and carefully divided it into small portions. Every child received a piece before he took one for himself. Emma felt tears fill her eyes. He hadn't been saving food for himself. He had been feeding other hungry children. One little girl hugged him tightly. "Did you eat today?" she asked. The boy smiled. "Yes." Emma knew that wasn't true. He had lied so the others wouldn't worry. Just then, an elderly woman entered carrying a small pot of soup. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "This is all I could make." The children smiled anyway. To them, every meal was a blessing. Emma quietly stepped away before anyone noticed her. She sat in her car for several minutes, unable to stop crying. The next morning, she returned to the diner with a plan. She spoke with Mike, the cook, and the diner owner. "What if," Emma asked, "instead of throwing away extra food every night, we packed it safely and donated it?" The owner smiled. "I've wanted to do that for years." By the end of the day, several large containers were filled with fresh meals. Emma drove them to the warehouse. When the children saw her, they became frightened. The boy quickly stepped in front of them. "Please don't call the police," he pleaded. Emma gently smiled. "I'm not here to take anything away." She opened the back of her car. Boxes of food. Fresh fruit. Bread. Milk. Blankets. Warm clothes. The children couldn't believe their eyes. One by one, they helped unload everything. The boy looked at Emma with tears in his eyes. "You knew." "I know enough," she replied. "And now you're not alone anymore." Over the next few weeks, the community slowly learned about the children. Local businesses donated supplies. Teachers volunteered to help them study. Doctors offered free medical checkups. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A black luxury SUV stopped outside the diner. A well-dressed man stepped inside carrying a leather briefcase. "Are you Emma?" "Yes. My name is Jonathan Reed." He placed an old photograph on the counter. Emma looked closely. Standing beside a younger Jonathan was the hungry boy's father. "My best friend disappeared over a year ago," Jonathan explained. "Before he vanished, he trusted me with something very important." Emma listened carefully. He discovered evidence of a massive financial crime involving millions of dollars. Before he could expose it, he disappeared. Jonathan's voice became emotional. "We've been searching for his family ever since." Emma suddenly remembered the blue backpack. "The boy always carries that backpack." Jonathan nodded slowly. "I think what's inside it is exactly what we've been looking for." At that moment, both Emma and Jonathan realized the boy had unknowingly been protecting a secret worth millions, and perhaps the truth about his father's disappearance. Thank you so much for watching. If this heartwarming story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness of Park Story for more inspiring stories that restore faith in humanity. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more amazing stories every week.